Good morning. Look at all these smiling faces for a 9 a.m. session. I love it. Who went to the SharePoint party last night? That is dedication. All right. So I went as well, but I had to be good because I wanted to see all of you this morning because I knew you all were excited to hear about PowerShell. So I thank you for rolling out of bed and making it here this morning. My name is Corey Roth. I work for a small consulting company called Infusion out of Houston, Texas, and more recently, my new founded app startup called SP2, so getting into the SharePoint App Store. And I want to talk to you a little bit about PowerShell. So there's some new things coming, and it's a great talk. So who here really gets fired up over PowerShell? Yeah, let's give yourselves a hand. All right. So we're going to talk about PowerShell. We're going to talk about some new stuff. We've been having network connectivity issues, as you probably heard. I brought my own backup, so I think we'll be okay for the online portion of the demo. So we'll see how that goes, and let's be sure, and if you see a network guy, be sure and thank them, because they've had less sleep than us, and it's not because they were on the tables. So big round of applause for them. So, yeah, applaud for them. They're working hard for us. So what are we going to learn today? Well, first, we're going to talk about configuring permissions properly for PowerShell. That's hard to say, isn't it? And this was an issue a lot that we ran into with 2010, and we're going to go over 2013 because it's a little more forgiving. We're going to talk about PowerShell for upgrades. That's right. We are going to upgrade a content database right here in the session, and then we're going to do some site collection upgrades right at the talk. So you're going to get live upgrade experience right here. So we're going to be provisioning new service applications, so we'll go over quickly some of the new ones that you might want to provision via PowerShell. Save yourself some time. We're going to talk about managing apps and how we can install them and export them and do things like that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about SharePoint Online Management Shell. And now that we have PowerShell for SPO, what we can and cannot do. And I'm going to let you part with a few tips. So what's new? Just like you all earlier today, last night. I had a good night, right? So, there we go. PowerShell in 2013. Well, as you probably gathered by now from the title of the talk, it's powered by PowerShell 3.0 now, which means I think they're similar. They get us some new benefits. You may give you some script issues, so I encourage you to test your scripts if you have big, elaborate scripts from 2.0. It's over 300 new commandlets. Things to manage all sorts of the new features. Most of them are around apps, the new search topology, things like that. We'll go over a handful of them. And then a few of them got removed. And most of the ones that were removed were due to search, and mainly because search kind of got totally transformed. So I'll show you some of that. So what does PowerShell 3.0 give us? Well, it's based on .NET Framework 4.0 now. It has the new Windows PowerShell Web Access, which effectively lets you run PowerShell commands in a browser. Kind of cool for remote administration. The help files can actually be updated, which is kind of nice if you want to get some updates and you're not stuck with the same updates for a couple of years, right? It's got nice scheduled job timer integration, things like that. And there's a whole slew of features, right? The tab completion's better, things like that. And that's just this great a drop in the bucket of the new features. But we're going to talk about what's SharePoint specific. And we're going to get into all the details. So, how do we get started? Well, we launch it with the same SharePoint 2013 Management Shell link. You can also run SharePoint.ps1, which effectively loads the snap-in Microsoft.SharePoint.PowerShell DLL. So it's a pretty similar experience that you've already been working with in 2010. But what I want to talk about is permissions, because who here has had permissions in 2010 in PowerShell? Have you had issues with it before? Doing different accounts, right? It's a common problem. So I'm going to show you how to fix it and how to deal with it more effectively and what's different. So out of the box, your installation permissions weren't correct in 2010. Because the farm/local administrator access is not enough. Deep down inside, there's content databases, and ultimately you have to have access to those content databases. So the nice thing is PowerShell is more forgiving for SharePoint 2013. Because in 2010, you'd find yourself, you'd install it, maybe you install it with your setup account, and you'd find that your setup account really couldn't run many commands. It would get access denied errors or just random other obscure errors, right? So that's not the case anymore. Your setup account will just work out of the box, which is great. Of course, still don't forget to run as administrator. I do that at least once a day, right? So I'm sure you do too. So just be sure you run as administrator. Keeps you from having all sorts of nasty issues. So how do we grant permissions to PowerShell? So get SP shell admin has been around since 2010, and we use it to see who has access first. And then we add access with add SP shell admin. Now, those of you writing down, don't worry about writing things down. This stuff's all online, and we're going to go through a lot of slides that have a lot of PowerShell on it. So don't stress out over writing down PowerShell commands, okay? I see you back there, So how it works, you get a reference to the database, content database, and you need to grant access to each content database that you have. So if you have 50 of them, you got to do it for all of them. So you can write a script to do that, right? And you got to call add shell admin for each one. You also by doing that, it will add the permissions to the content database, the configuration database as well. So let's take a look at that real quick and see what this looks like. Oops, wrong. I went to the wrong computer. So, okay, so you see PowerShell. So I've enlarged the font a little bit on this to make it as big as possible. Still, I apologize for the ones in the back. That's as big as it gets. I call this Mega Shell. So, okay, let's take a look at get SP shell admin and see some different things. So I'm going to just type get SP shell admin. And the first thing you notice, I'm actually logged in an account called SP setup. And you notice the only user that has access there is SP farm. But you also notice it worked, right? So this account that I set up with actually has access. Now, I have a content database that I'm going to grant access to. So I'm going to do $DB to get a variable for it. And I'm going to do get SP content database using my tab key to help me type faster. And I'm going to give it its name, WSS content underscore 80. That gives us a reference to the database. Then we can use it with add SP shell admin. And I have a new user account that I will need to grant access to. So I use the username parameter. And then SharePoint / SPC demo 1 is the username. And then I just pass the database name with $DB. So, of course, no news and good news in PowerShell, right? So we didn't get an error. Now if we run get SP shell admin, we see SP farm and SPC demo 1. So when you bring your new administrators on, this is what you need to do. So I know it doesn't seem complicated, but it's it's something you need to know because chances are you're hopefully not the only one administering your farm, right? I'm joking, right? You all are. I know it. So, okay, so let's get back let's see some new stuff. So, you all see 2013, and you all are ready, right? Because you all are upgrading next week, right? So, I know. So let's talk about what we need to know. All sorts of fun stuff. So, if you've done a 2010 upgrade, you know test SP content database and mount SP content database. Well, those are still around. However, the deferred site collection upgrade that you probably heard by now brings us a whole slew of new commandlets to manage that process. And there's also some additions to managed solutions in the 14 Hive versus the 15 Hive. These are talking about the actual customizations. So again, there's examples. Test SP content database takes a name and web application parameter. And we're going to do this live here in just a second and see what that's like. So what we're going to do is we're going to kick off a content database upgrade, and then we'll come back to do a few slides and let it run. It's a small database, so it upgrades pretty fast. So first, let's switch over to the right screen. I promise I'll get it right at some point. So I'm going to do test SP content database, and the name of my content database is WSS content underscore 80 underscore 2. And I forgot the web application, but PowerShell is nice enough to correct it for me and ask me for it. So my web application is still called SP 2010, so that won't be at all confusing to the users later. And what it tells me is like, hey, I'm missing some web parts and things like that. But I don't care if that stuff works. So we're just going to go ahead and upgrade it. We'll worry about that later, right? That's how you all do it, right? The users will tell you if it's wrong. So we're going to mount the content database and using the same parameters. So we'll give it the name, content _ 80 _ 2. And this doesn't do a full upgrade like it did in 2010, right? This just effectively attaches it and changes its schema. So it attaches much quicker. So as soon as this percentage indicator kind of goes, all right, we know it's working, we'll go back to our slides, and it should be finished up by the time we're back. So solution management now has, it works pretty much the same way. The thing you need to know is if you have sandbox solutions, you don't need to worry about those because they're in the database already, so you don't have to worry about installing them first. So that makes it kind of nice. And there's a new compatibility level switch, which allows you to override where the solution package gets installed, because effectively SharePoint 2013 has a whole copy of 2010 sitting alongside with it. That's how you're seeing these deferred site collection upgrades. So keep in mind that those parameters are there. The deferred site collection upgrades have commandlets to do various things. So some of the things you see in central admin already, like the manage health checks, you can upgrade already there, and you can let your users do that and all that. And you can request evaluation sites, collections, and all that fun stuff. So we're going to look at some of these great commands. I'm pretty excited about some of them, and if you're a developer or something like that, really of use. You can see the upgrade status of your sites with get sp site. And in the screenshot there, you'll see it indicating 14 or 15, which effectively tells you which version of SharePoint it's running, 2010 or 2013. To run site collection health checks, use test sp site or repair sp site. And it will go do the same thing as if you did it online. Repair will actually automatically repair any issues, and this looks for things like missing, dependencies and things like that. Haven't had it actually report too many issues to me yet on any of the site collections, so apparently I haven't managed to break it yet. To upgrade a site collection, we use upgrade sp site, and you just give it the URL to the site collection, and you need to be sure to include -version upgrade. If you forget about that, effectively it's a safety check and it doesn't do anything. It's considered a build-to-build upgrade, right? So be sure to get that version upgrade command in there. To monitor the upgrade status, we can use get sp site upgrade session. And this has all sorts of parameters. So if you're doing a bunch of upgrades and you got a bunch of them queued up, it has various parameters there, like show completed, show in progress, things like that. Or you can look at it for a given site to see what's going on. Upgrade evaluation site collections are all kinds of cool. So if you haven't heard about those yet, basically what it does is it copies the site collection and upgrades it and leaves the original one intact. And the user can go check it out and see if they like it or not. It's effectively temporary. So you use that with request that's upgrade evaluation site. And effectively queues the process off, and then a later timer job will come off and make that magic happen. To copy a site collection, this new command's there. So before we relied on third-party tools and stuff like that, now we have copy sp site, and this is all kinds of awesome. So you can take a whole site collection and duplicate it somewhere else, and you can even move it to a new content database. So this one is really, really cool. So let's go check on our status and see how our upgrade went, and we'll see what we can do about it. Oh, look at that. I got errors. Who would have thought, right? Oh, well, we don't care. Let's go get fixing some things. So, okay, first, what I'm going to do so I'm going to run a second version of MegaShell because we're going to use this during our upgrade. So I'm just going to move this one over here to the side for a second. And I don't want to see that error anymore, so let's just make that go away. Pretend it never happened. Let's run get sp site. So now you see some sites running 14 and 15. And if you want to get fancy, you can query it, right? You can apply some filters on it. So we could do where object, right? And then you do $_.compatibility level, hardest part spelling that, -EQ and 14. And if I did it right, now it just shows me the sites that need upgraded, right? So I got my IT site, my HR site, those got to get upgraded. So to test the site, let's first jump over to the browser and see what this looks like. So I'm going to go over here, and I got a link to my site that we're going to upgrade. So let's just make sure it looks good. We'll give that a second to spin up. And there's, our 2010 site. Never mind that error in the middle of the screen. And we're going to upgrade this, okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to jump back over to our PowerShell window. And let's test SB site and see what it says. So we do test SB site. We give it the URL. In this case, it's site/SPC. So we have a special SPC site collection. And effectively, you can weed through that and actually see that, hey, there's some missing parent content types, missing galleries, customized files, things like that it's flagging. Not going to kill us, so we'll just go ahead and move on. But what I want to do is before I upgrade this, I want to copy it somewhere else. So we're going to do copy SB site, and we pass the identity parameter of the old site collection. So we're going to do server name /site/SPC. Then we're going to do a target URL, and then we're going to call this SP 2010 site/SPC12. So we'll make it year specific. So effectively what this is going to do, and it should only take a second because it's small, and it says it's done. So let's go over here and into the browser. We'll bring it up, and if all goes well, the web page will respond. And it looks the same, okay? Now, we're going to upgrade one of those site collections. We'll actually be able to see both running at the same time. So let's jump back to PowerShell. And we're going to do upgrade-SB site. Again, we're going to do, we're going to upgrade the 2010 one. So we're going to do site/SPC12. And we're going to do -version upgrade. Don't forget that. Okay, while that's doing that, you see a percentage counter taken off. We're going to check the status of it by doing get SB site upgrade session info. And I can pass the URL to it. If I type faster than it upgrades, all right, I didn't type that. But it still gives us useful info. It just says, hey, it was completed. So had I typed it faster, it would say in progress, right? So always a challenge. So still recovering from the AppPoint party, right? Okay, so now it's upgraded. So let's refresh the page. Look at that. And then go back over here. Still running 2010. How cool is that? Great way to test it to see if you're going to break it. Of course, if you have a bigger site collection, it's going to take longer, but you get the idea. Now, let's see if we can do something about this error. So, back over to PowerShell. We're going to do add SB solution. If you've been administering 2010, you're probably familiar with this. SPC12 I got my farm solution package here. Let's see. So we're going to add it to the solution store with add SB solution. Then we're going to install it. And the name is SPC farm solution. And we're going to GAC deploy that sucker. And then web application, HTTP 2010. All right, so we'll let that crank, and then our site should come up and run after IIS resets, and that should fix our error. Now our users will get off our back. So we'll give that just a second to refresh. And of course, the fun part of resetting IIS is always waiting for it, but it should be up in just a second. So I'll take a drink while it's doing that. Nice. Just refresh it again, see if it goes away. And we're not going to wait for IIS. We'll come back and check it when we get the next demo. So, okay. Get it to go. Have to click it a few times. Service applications. So we got a bunch of new service applications that support all the new cool features, right? So I'm going to show you how to deploy some of them. So you can automate provisioning with most service applications. The root of it is creating a service and then creating a proxy. The parameters vary by application, of course. So typically, you're going to pass a service application name, optionally maybe a database, either server or name, application pool, and some of them take some time to provision, of course. You haven't heard about translation services, so this provides machine translation of content in SharePoint. It's kind of cool. And basically it provisions, again, we create the service application first. So basically I go in there, I create name, translation service, and then we go create a proxy. Work management server works the same way. Again, don't try to write it down. Put your pencils down. Who has pencils anymore, really? And it works the same way. So you give it a name, an application pool. And so work management service is what does all the magic between SharePoint, Exchange, and Project. So things like the site inbox and stuff like that. Search is a little more involved now. So as search, it's basically, FAST has kind of been fully integrated into it now. And so there's multiple steps we need to do if you're going to provision search. So I'm going to show you a billion slides to see this, and you can kind of refer back to them later when you want to do this on your own. Basically what the process is we get the search service instance, and we got to provision the individual components, those 5 node runner processes that are sucking up all your memory on your VM that you probably tried. So you use start SP search service instance on each server. So if you have multiple servers, you'll run that on each server. And then you create a new topology with new SP Enterprise Search topology. And then you go add the components to the topology. And then lastly, you set it. And so when you're doing with topologies in search and SharePoint, effectively you create one, and then you come in and copy it over with set. So going over this kind of quickly. So to start the search on the individual servers, you use get Enterprise Search Service instance. It's so hard to say. Then you start it with the start command. And then we create our application pools, right? So this is the new SP service application pool. Maybe you already have one you want to use, which is fine. And then you create the search service application. So that part's kind of the same. After that, you create a new topology with new SP Enterprise Search topology, and you just pass it the name of the SSA. After that, you got to provision the individual components and what server you want them on. So if you're going to scale out in various ways, this is how you do it. So with new SP Enterprise Search admin component, for example, that's your administration component, then there's a crawl component, and it takes A, the topology, and B, the server. Now, it doesn't actually provision the topology until you finally call that set call at the very end. So this just kind of sets it up. Then there's content processing, search analytics, search query, search index. And I'll point out search index is where you can specify index partitions and things like that. So if you want to put redundancy in your search index or scale it out, that's where you'll do it. Then lastly, we call set SP Enterprise Search topology with the identity and with the pass it that new topology that we created to begin with. And then you can verify it with get SP Enterprise Search topology and get SP Enterprise Search status. There, I got through with it. Hard to say. Oh my gosh. So that's search. A lot to go, but refer back to it and you can do it. So subscription settings. So subscription settings you probably never messed with in 2010. Now you're going to because you want to have apps, supposedly. And I hope you do, because I have a few in the store. And to set this up, you set this up by creating a app pool, and it needs to use the farm account. So this app pool has to run with the farm account. So that's the difference here. Other than that, the rest is the same. So create your service application, then create your proxy. App management service is pretty much the same way. So you create the service application, create the proxy, then you call set SP app domain and set SP app site subscription name. And so the app domain is the kind of wildcard suffix that goes onto your domain, or whatever domain you want to host those apps. For example, I have apps.domain.local. And then the set SP app site subscription name is what is on the prefix of the URL. So effectively, it'll be app-some GUID, and then it'll have that. Of course, you have to do a bunch of DNS stuff and all that to make that work, but this is kind of how you get going. I'll also point out in my slide deck when you pull it down, I have a reference to every TechNet article for each site, each command that I use. So you could refer back to that and not have to go looking for it. So let's provision a service application. So we're going to provision the translation service application, and it's actually really simple. And as you see, it came back up, and now we have our web part working there. And a little advertisement for Thursday night, so come on by Hofbrau House. We're having a little gathering, so you're all welcome to join. You can see my blog for more info, .netmafia.com. And if we update this page as well, it should come in as well. And there it is. So, what I'm going to show you, you notice I've typed all my commands so far, but now we're going to actually use a few scripts just to keep me from making mistakes. Let's clear the screen again, and I'm going to show you this simple script. So this is a new SP translation service application, and actually you don't need to create the proxy for it. It'll actually do it for you. And I just give it the name. I give it the web application, or not the web application, the database name, and I also put the database server on there. So that's all there is to it. If I just run it real quick, it's super fast to deploy, and boom, it says it's online. If I jump to central administration, help me out, fine, there it is. We can go and we can see that it's actually running there now. Let's give that a second to come up. Maximize that so you can see it. Managed service applications. And down there we have the translation service. So that one's easy to set up, one of the easier ones, but just wanted to show you how that kind of works so you have an idea that you can do this stuff via PowerShell. So I want to talk about managing apps because this is kind of new. And there's a lot of things we can do in regards to, I have to really work to get off those slides. There's a lot of things we can do when it comes to importing and exporting. And so first you kind of get the naming technology, terminology right before you mess with it. App package refers to the actual physical file containing the app. So this is what you deploy. Think of it like your old solution package. It has an extension of .app. The app in the world of PowerShell is the actual instance of it. So you could have 10 apps for one given app package. Does that make sense? I know it's early. You often use the ID parameter with that too, so I'll show you that. To install apps with PowerShell, we use import-sp app package, or you can just, of course, get it from the store or whatever, or deploy with Visual Studio. But when you want to do it with PowerShell, you pass in the path, you pass in the site that you actually want it on. So the app package takes the site collection, and then you pass it a source. And there's this enumerable where you have to tell it what kind of package it is. In this case, maybe you're using an object model, or maybe it's a developer site. Typically, I use object model. Then, once you're ready to deploy it to an individual website, you do install sp app, and you pass in the web URL, so it could be an individual site, and then you pass in the identity and just pass it that variable. You can also export them, which is nice too. So packages can be exported, basically the same kind of parameters. Just get an instance of it with get sp app instance, and then export it with sp app package. To update them, the steps are a little more involved. Basically, you get a reference to the previous app instance with get sp app instance. Then you import the new app package, and then you update the app instance with the app package. Does that make sense? It's a little took me a while to figure out. So you import the package, and then you update each individual app that you want to update. So I'm going to show you real quickly, just kind of managing apps real quick. We're going to import, we're going to export, and look at all that fun stuff. So over here, we're going to go back over to PowerShell. And I have an app in this particular folder called SBC Demo App. And what we're going to do is we're going to import that here. So what we'll do is I'm going to show you my script. So I import the app with SP app package. We give it the path, and then we give it the URL that we want it to go to. And the source, again, remember to say object model. And so you can actually, you don't have to specify the enum that way. You can actually just say object model. That's a change they made fairly recently. And so just specify object model so you don't have to type all that out. Then you get the instance with install. So you create the instance with install-sp app, give it the web and the URL to it, and then let it rip. So I'm just going to hit install SP app. So it will say only, install for trusted sources. So I trust me, hit yes, and it's done. Okay, I said it was going to be done, but it's actually going to take a second, I guess. So we'll give it just a little bit longer. And while that's running, we're going to go over to this site and see if it shows up. And I may be a little ahead of it, but we'll see. Nope, it's not there yet. Okay, it says it's done. Let's refresh. Let's see if it didn't want to install. All right, well, had that worked, you'd actually see it here listed in the Developer Center. I am still running beta 2 on this, so don't forgive me. Export the app the same way, so let me just show you that. So to export the app, we had to do a little bit of work, so I used a where object to filter down by the title of the app. So I get SP app instance, returns everything, and I just use $_.title-EQ, and I specify the app. And then I use export SP app package, and boom, we get a file. So if we run it, oh, y'all are more awake than I am. Let's see if that fixes it. Oh, I did, didn't I? What does it not like now? SP app package. I promise you this worked. Oh, I think. Oh, did I? Oh, wow, okay. What did I do? Oh. What did I miss? Dollar export. Oh, jeez. Honestly, I have tested this, I promise. I say that, did I not? Maybe I'm too fast. It's cracking me up. Okay. There it goes. All right. PowerShell by teamwork. I love it. So now you can export. So it's nice that you can import and export them, do whatever you need. You pull them down, export them, move them around, So I definitely wanted to show you that because apps are a big deal with SharePoint 2013. So also have something cool to show you. So sometimes you might want a tool. I mean, we've seen a lot of stuff, and it's going to be hard to remember this, I'm sure, especially after tonight. And so what's nice is the Windows PowerShell for SharePoint Command Builder got updated. Anyone ever used this before 2010? So it's a nice little Silverlight app that lets you drag and drop various things and helps you assemble those commands, and then you can copy paste. So let's take a look at that because this just came out last week. So here's the fun part where we start testing our internet. Not to worry, I have a backup plan. So I'm going to go over here, and here we go. I want to see that all right. And so what's cool about this is you can drag and drop. So I can say I want to add. And then it filters down the things that you might want to add. Which I can't see my scroll bar here. Oh, here we go. And so maybe, yeah, we did SP shell admin earlier this morning, right? And then you drop it in there, and then you type in, okay, here's my account. Then optionally, you can say, no, I don't want to confirm. And I say WSS content, give it my data space name, right? It gives you a little help file. It gives you a nice, convenient link right there to where you get it. Then you can just say copy to clipboard, say allow access. And then, you could paste that into PowerShell in theory. Oops. Yeah, so there you go. I pasted it twice on accident. So really handy tool to help you get through the intricacies of PowerShell. Much easier to read than get-sp help, I think. So take a look at that. Really easy to use. I got a link to it at the end of my slide deck that's up online. So go take a look at that. Okay. So this is you on a, yeah. So licensing, right? Has anybody dealt with a customer or even your own self in the 2010 where they only wanted enterprise features for, say, 50 users instead of all 5,000? Well, most of you probably have not heard about this feature, and I hadn't heard about it until somebody told me about it. But now, we have the ability to give only select users enterprise features. Previously, there was no way to audit this, right? You just kind of had to be true up and, yeah, we're not using it. Now you can actually enforce it with the new 2013 license checking feature. So what it does is it allows you to map licenses to Active Directory groups. And then you say what those Active Directory groups can use. So there's 4 types by default: enterprise, standard, project, so you can do your project licensing that way too, and Office Web Apps Edit. And standard users will be blocked from these enterprise features, and they won't even be able to add them in the web part menu, even if they're an administrator. And what will happen is a licensing error will pop up and says, hey, you don't have access, go bug somebody and beg for a license. So it's disabled by default, so you got to enable it with SP user license, SP enable user licensing. We'll do this. Get SP user license shows you what types are available. New SP user license mapping is what takes the security group and the license parameters. It also supports roles and claims and all that fun stuff. And then you have to pipe that over to add SP user license mapping. So it's kind of got this 2-step process. I don't know why they just do it as one. But then, once you create all your license mapping, you do enable SP user licensing. And what's nice is you can kind of keep all your mappings. You can set them up. You can turn it on. And if somebody's like, oh, my God, I can't get to anything now, you can turn it off real quick just by calling disable SP user licensing. Yes, you have a question? No, I don't think it has any dependencies on that. No, I don't think so, because you can also do it against FBA, supposedly, although I haven't tried it. Somebody tries it, let me know. So let me show you what the script looks like. So to enable licensing, first I've created 2 groups, standard users and enterprise users. And so I do new SP user license mapping with the security group parameter, and then I do license standard or license enterprise. Then I pipe those variables I have there to add new SP user license mapping. And then finally, I call SP enable user licensing. So if I get all my accounts right and all that stuff, we should be able to demo this. Over to PowerShell once again. We'll clear our screen and take a look. So first, let me show you get SP user license. And so we have enterprise, standard, project, and Office Web Apps. So supposedly maybe that could be extendable someday. But I'm going to show you this site. And on the site, it has Excel Web Access on it, which means it's Excel services. And if you don't have enterprise, it's not going to work. So I can see it right now. But let's see what happens when we do some of these changes. So what we'll do is I'll show you my script. And again, it's the same thing. So we got our standard users, our enterprise users. We map them to each group. Then we call add, and then we call enable SP user licensing. So let's try that. So we run it. Now, let's go back over to our site. And as an administrator, let's see if it changes anything. So what I did is one of my users has access and one doesn't. And so even though I'm the setup account with full domain admin access, I don't have a standard user license, so I can't run Excel services. Is that pretty cool or what? This is something we've been wanting forever. Give them applause for that. Now, what's cool about it is let's test and make sure it actually works. So let's sign in with an account and let's see if it actually works. So I'm going to use my hack. If you haven't noticed, the logout link is gone now. And so I'm going to use this little hack to the old page. I'm going to log in with Jennifer Evans. And if I remember right, she does not have access. And it should give me like an error page just because I used the kind of hack. Or let me, and then we'll go back, and maybe I chose the wrong account. And then we'll just jump back to the enterprise site. And does she have access? No. So let's try Anna Stevenson. So we'll log out one more time. Again, so she had access. And again, the error is expected. Then we'll go back to the enterprise site. And so Anna has access, SP setup does not. I think this is a really cool feature, and my customers have been asking for it forever, so I hope it helps you. The good thing is, when you're all done and you don't want it anymore, or if you need to get rid of it or you messed it up, it's called Disable SP User Licensing. Oops. SP User Licensing. And it's gone. So the mappings are still there, so you can tweak them. Yes? In theory, that is correct. So this question was if the user's performance point will be able to consume those dashboards if they don't have the enterprise license enabled, and yeah, that's, it should restrict you from doing that now, although I haven't personally tested performance point with it yet, but so far I've tried Excel services and Visio and things like that, and it does in fact block it. All right. So what about SharePoint Online? Anybody use SPO? Sure? Are you excited about PowerShell for SPO? All right. So, to get started with SPO and PowerShell, we use the new SharePoint Online Management Shell. And this comes with Windows PowerShell. You need Windows PowerShell 3.0, which you can get with the Windows Management Framework 3.0 if you're running Windows 7. And it's already there if you are running Windows 8 or say you have SharePoint 2013 installed. So you install it from the link. I have the link to the preview there, but the live version just came out this week. I wasn't brave enough to switch over to it yet, right in front of a conference. You need to have a global administrator access, of course, and you just launch it with the SharePoint Online Management Shell link. A couple tips to remember when you're using this. Remember to specify HTTPS instead of HTTP when you're using the URLs that you're messing with. It only works with v15 of SharePoint Online, which you'll be upgraded over the next few months. And commands have a similar name prefix, but it's like get SPO instead of get SP, for example. Just remember that global administrator account. And since you're online, effectively what it's doing is it's connecting over CSOM. And so some things take time, right, like creating a site collection. And you can use the no wait commandlet to execute things immediately. So to connect to it, we use Connect SPO Service. And there's a talk later this afternoon, I think at 3, that goes a little more in detail if you want more SPO goodness. So what this takes is the URL and credential. Now, it just takes credential. You can't pass the password on it because I guess they don't want to use saving passwords and scripts. So it'll prompt up a login dialog box to type that in. What commandlets are available? Quite a few. So there's things to deal with sites, deal with users and groups, and upgrade site collections as well. Because just like on premises and how we upgraded our site collection earlier, you can do the same thing in SPO. To work with site collections, use get SPO site. And one thing you need to know about this is, by default, it doesn't return everything that you might need. There's this parameter called -detail that you must have for certain types of queries. And what -detail says is, I don't care about performance, give me every attribute that comes back. So again, think of it like CSOM if you're a developer. We can pass an identity, and you can also pass a filter. That filter is case sensitive, by the way, so the -like or -eq, be sure to get that right when you do it. Otherwise, you'll get some kind of weird, funky syntax there. We create site collections in the same way with new SPO site. You just have to specify a template and a storage quota, and you can figure out which templates are installed on SharePoint Online, although you can't install your own, with get SPO web template. To remove a site, we use remove SPO site. So this is very similar, a lot of parity to what you're doing already. To restore from the site collection recycle bin, we do restore-SPO deleted site. So you can do that all with PowerShell. And then testing and upgrading has a very similar syntax compared to what you have in on-prem. Just note that you have to have that V to V upgrade. That's a little bit different than the syntax, which is version upgrade for on-premises. And take some parameters like that, like the identity of it. So. Lastly, working with users. So you can add users to sites now, which is kind of nice, site collections. You just give it the site to see who's there, and then you use add SPO user, and you can do a login name or a group and things like that. And just keep in mind the user has to already be there in the actual SharePoint, the portal.microsoftonline.com, so the user already has to exist, which, of course, you could script that already before, but this actually adds existing users into groups and things like that on the site. So let's see if my internet connectivity is going to work. I'm on a Verizon MiFi, so if you're on Verizon, just shut off your phones now so it'll run faster. And we're really just playing with fire here, so let's do this. So I have my SharePoint Online Management shell. The way I got to it was from here. So I had installed there. It's on here somewhere. The resolution, of course, tricks you. So there it is. You just launch it with that. Be sure to run it as administrator. You saw all the people I have pinned to my wall for SBC there. To connect to it, let me just show you my script. So all it is connect SPO service, then a URL, and I'm specifying the name of the URL, -admin. So the URL you give it is your -admin, which is basically where you manage your site collections and stuff today. And then we do my credentials. Again, no passwords there. So let's go ahead and connect it up. And if all goes well, it will connect for us. Fingers crossed? Yay, all right. Now, let's see some sites. So I did get SPO site, and it returns, some things that are kind of crunched in there, but we can get that in a better format. So what I can do is I can do a format table with FT. And I can say URL and compatibility level. And now we have the URLs of the sites. They're still kind of truncated. We can work with that. But you notice that the compatibility level is 0. And the reason for that is not because we're on version 0 with SharePoint, but it's actually because that's what happens if you don't specify -detailed. So let me show you that. So we'll do get SPO site, -detailed. And when you just do it like that, you really won't see any difference. But when you do see the difference is when you combine it with the, here, I'm just going to get lazy and do it this way. We'll just inject the -detailed. What you'll see, now we have that my sites are running version 15. So that's how you do that. So just keep that in mind when you're working with Get SPO site. So let's look at how we can create a new site collection. So first I'm going to show you Get SPO Web Template. And this gives you a list of all the template IDs that are currently installed in SPO. So there's our common STS #0, our team site, things like that. And all the ones that are out there. To actually do this, let's go ahead and I'm going to show you another script. I could probably make this bigger, huh? Thought I had already. There we go. So again, we take the URL parameter, and you be sure and get the HTTPS, and so I passed it into my site. So I'm looking at my SBC site that I have online, and then I'm giving it the owner of the site, that's my global administrator account in this case. And then we give things like storage quota, and I'm saying don't wait. It's going to return immediately, but it's going to be off cranking for a little while because of that no wait command. So then you also pass the resource quota, which you have to have, and of course the template. We're going to make a team site, and then I'm saying we'll give it a name. So if you've created sites on premises, this probably doesn't look too different. So we'll go ahead and run that. And it should return back to the command prompt here in just a second, because it's not going to wait. Maybe. In the meantime, the site already exists. Okay, no problem. We can fix that. Let's call this SBC 12. And again, we'll let it run. Since it's connected online, it takes a second. And I'm going to jump over here. And if the command went through, we should now see the site collection being spun up. And see, there you see it down there at the bottom now. So this is a nice feature because before you had to do this all through this UI here, as you know. So it's very, very nice help. Oops, so I don't want to go there. So let's work with some users. So jumping over to our prompt again. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do get SPO user, and I want to see who's on this particular site. So I'm going to type, oops, see, I already forgot the HTTPS. Don't forget it. demospc.sharepoint.com. Demospc is my particular tenant. Sites/Contoso. And we'll give that a second, and it should show us all the users that are installed on the site. So there it prints them out, and see, it's online, right? And it takes a second for it to retrieve those things. If you want a specific user, you can add dash login name. So if I want to get information about Sarah, of course, the hardest part is typing their username. Now it just returns that one particular user, and I know that she's in the owners group there. So you can also look at groups in the same way with get SPO site group. So we'll do get SPO site group dash site. Again, don't forget that HTTPS. I do it every time. demospc.sharepoint.com/sites/Contoso. And it should show me all the names of the groups that I can add to. So there's approvers, designers, things like that. It's usually faster if you're not on MiFi, by the way. But okay. So now if I want to add a user to that group, I'll show you this script. And the only reason I script it is because that account name is long. So I want to grab, add Alex to this group. His name is Alex D. And so we do add SPO user. We do the site. We do the login name and what group we want to put it in. So in this case, home visitors. Oops, I did the wrong script. So I actually had two tenants just in case one didn't stay up. So now I've added that user and it displays it, and now that user is in the group. So if we get SPO user on that site again, it'll take a second, but you see Alex there at the top. So that's how you add a user. So it's nice that you can actually work with users and create sites and all those things now using SharePoint Online inside the shell. So let's wrap it up with a few tips. So using PowerShell more effectively. A lot of y'all are experienced. You've been doing this for a long time, but you still don't use the tab key, and I don't understand. Anyone still type? And so I'll be watching somebody who's working with shells for 20 years, and they'll type get, SP, enterprise, search, and so they'll type every single character. Press tab. It's smart. It will fill in whatever you've finished, so the more letters you type, the less it gives you choices. Use the tab key. Dash debug is a nice way to step through some things if you're not sure what's going on, and it'll literally let you step through multiple steps of like the internal commands. And so like if you run get SP site or something like that, it will step you through that, and I'll show you that here in a second. Then the last one, use dash what if. What if's good, especially if you're deleting sites, site collections, users, and you want to iterate through and make sure you got it right. So it's a good way to test things. So be sure and use that. So let's look at a couple of these real quick, and I'll send you on your way. Okay. So again, so the tab. So see how we could do this? It's not hard, right? But it gives us a lot of choices. So I'm sure all of y'all know this, but still, I just want to give you a nice reminder. So if I typed in 3 or 4 letters, notice how it filters it by whatever I typed in first. So use it. It's handy. It's there to make your job easier. Now let's look at debug, because it's fairly interesting. It really gives you more information than you probably ever want, but you never know. So I did get SP site, and then I'm going to add dash debug. And so it literally confirms everything. So do I want to begin processing? Yes, lovely. Do I want to confirm? Yes. Do I want to confirm the next step? Yes. And so when you have big involved scripts, this can be handy. And so you can really see what's going on, especially if you have some issues. Or you write your own commandlets. So use debug, it's handy. And so you see how you step through each part. Lastly, if I wanted to get rid of a site, again, I hit tab a little too early there. So say I'm going to get rid of a site. We'll just get rid of the root site collection. We don't need any more, right? And we do dash what if. It'll tell you, performing operations. So obviously you knew what it was going to do, but when you have a loop or something like that, you're using for each, where object, right? That's very, very handy. So those are just a couple quick tips I wanted to leave you with. Let me show you the rest of this. Where to put it? So, to recap, what did we learn? Well, we talked about permissions. We just saw a real 2010 to 2013 upgrade using PowerShell. We upgraded some site collections. We provisioned a new service application. We looked at how to manage apps, and it sort of worked. We saw how we could do SharePoint Online Management Shell and do some great things there. And lastly, we looked at a couple quick tips to send you on your way and hopefully, help you in your day-to-day job, even in 2010, right? So to leave you with some references, first link, Windows PowerShell for SharePoint 2013. There's the URL for the command builder. You can just grab it out of the slide deck. And also some of the other useful information on what's new. So like the index of PowerShell commandlets, details on SPO management shell. And then lastly, the whole article on how we did that licensing step, so you can step through it. Of course, you can refer to my slides as well, but that's a good article on how to configure enterprise licensing. My name is Corey Roth. Thanks for coming to see me today. Have a great rest of the conference. I'll be here for questions, so if you want to do questions, please use the mic so everybody can take advantage of that. We'll have a few minutes, I think. So. You have a question? Is it working? Let's see if it gets it.
Is it working?
There we go.
There we go. We have identity access cards, smart cards to log on to servers in our organization, and we actually don't have remote PowerShell open yet, but we're about to. Do you know if you can use an identity smart card with remote PowerShell to authenticate?
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't.
You don't?
He's asking for identity smart cards for the web version of PowerShell, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, actually, for
for SPO?
For remote PowerShell.
Oh, for remote PowerShell. Yeah, I'm not sure. I actually don't know.
Okay. Second question. I saw that you do a lot of cutting and pasting. I do a lot of cutting and pasting, and I often see the RDP clip becomes corrupt, and you're unable to paste. And the good old trick is you kill RDP clip in Task Manager and start it in DOS.
Restart it, right?
Has Microsoft fixed that yet? Do they know what causes that?
I've had it break nearly as much. In
it breaks all the time.
So,
I don't know what causes it. It'd be fantastic if that was ever.
Yeah, I wish I knew. So, but yeah, I haven't seen it happen nearly as much as it used to back in like the 2000, 2003 days. So,
all right, thanks.
Seems to be running better.
See ya.
Go over here.
Yep, I had a question about the yes to all. Sometimes it doesn't really do yes to all. Do you have any options for that, like a remove SP content database? It says, are you sure you want to remove this? And then you say yes, and then it says it again. Doing this will remove the database. Even though if I hit A, I still have to do it twice. Do you have any tips for that?
Have you tried using the -confirm $false?
Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah, that should work. It doesn't prompt you when you use that.
More of a licensing question,
Yeah.
but do you know if, with the licensing, if it's a dependent on like profile import occurring in order for it to properly map the claim, or?
It doesn't appear to be. It just appears
So there's no dependency.
It just appears to look at the login.
Just
So
purely looks at Active Directory
yeah,
or wherever.
It just groups and logins is all I've seen it actually does. So.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All right, thanks for coming, guys. Have a good conference.